Hey, this is Joe Alexander from the Square Enix blog. By now you will have seen the awesomely epic trailer from E3 for Tomb Raider. I happily had the chance to sit down and was shown the game by Karl, the brand director at Crystal Dynamics. I had a few questions for him, so I got out the camera and shot this little interview you're about to see. Enjoy.
A famous explorer once said that the extraordinary is in what we do, not who we are.
So, what are you showing today? What are you demonstrating?
So, in the run up to E3, we're showing press who some can't make it to E3, so we're making sure that they get to see this awesome Tomb Raider. And we are giving people a first look, first glimpse at the reimagining of this famous and iconic brand.
With this reimagining, this complete reboot, what is new with Tomb Raider?
Everything is new, but then we still have the heritage of old. So it's a new Lara Croft, a new story. It's an origin story. We take Lara Croft back to 21 years of age, her first adventure, straight out of college, straight onto the Endurance, a ship that she knows well. She's been on it a couple of times. So it's a complete reimagining of something very iconic.
In terms of gameplay features, what have you kept? What's new? What have you done away with?
Well, because it's an origin story, and we have to introduce players to the very beginning of how she becomes kind of that. Well, you know, we want to get the players to that infamous Lara Croft. So by the time you finish playing the game, or even halfway through the game, you kind of step away and go, "That's Lara Croft of today." But in order to get to that point, we have to introduce you to kind of a baseline of, you know, her character, how she moves, her agility, the story of the island, the mystery around it, before we get too far. So, so right now the goal is to present her as that kind of girl thrust into a situation which is completely unexpected, completely unreal. She's never been in this before. And we put everything through a filter of survival, so it's both physical and psychological. There's a lot of sort of emotional upheaval of her being thrust into the situation. And in the demo itself, we show one of the pillars, which is Smart, Resourceful Lara. It's about a girl kind of growing into this situation, understanding physics and the elements in the world around her.
So what inspired this darker, grittier nature?
We took inspiration from a lot of places. One in particular was just real life stories, real life situations. We're big fans of looking at how people go through, you know, the pillars of kind of that element of survival. You know, there's the sort of the ambition. Everybody has the ambition to move forward and try something new. Some people do more than others, go further than others. And then there's the turning point. There's that element at which you kind of have stretched to your limits and you've gone a little bit further than you think comfortable. And then there's kind of the element of putting yourself in a situation which you have to deal with there and then. And a great example of some of the stuff we studied was Aaron Ralston, who's been portrayed in the Danny Boyle movie, 127 Hours, where, you know, pretty energetic guy, loved to get out, mountain bike, hike, live life to the full. But by doing that, he put himself in a very precarious situation, and it transpired he ended up chopping his arm off to have to live. We're not saying Lara's going to chop her arm off in our game, but it's the situation that he put himself in and how he debated how to move on. He didn't want to die. He didn't want to leave himself in that situation and kind of be found a couple of years later as a skeleton in a cave. He decided to make a big decision. So for us, it's about looking at the experiences, the real life human experiences that people go through, and trying to bring an element of that into our game.
In doing so, you've changed Lara's character quite dramatically. Is there did you feel pressure or danger in doing so, in changing that what's quite an iconic character?
Yeah, Lara she's very dear to our heart. We absolutely love Lara Croft. We love where Lara Croft has been over the last 15 years, but we felt now was the right time to basically start afresh, go back and tell a story of a character which we don't really know. And a way to humanize her in a way. We challenge the player to come across a character that kind of has a very different outlook on life. We still are going to have certain traits. There's still going to be times, as I said, we've kept the pillars of what it is to be Lara Croft in Tomb Raider to make sure that you still feel like you're playing a Tomb Raider game, but you're playing it with a character who you almost have an affinity with and a relationship with. You understand a side of her which you never understood before. So the goal is not to break the mold. It's more to redefine and reimagine her in a way that is of today. It's a game that you can, as I said, relate to.
How important is acting and performance capture in this game?
Acting and performance is very, very important to us. As some of the cutscenes you've seen, they're cutscenes and there's emotion in it that you will have never seen before in our character. One in particular where she manages to get the medical kit for Roth and she heals him, and she sits there and he tells her that she's going to have to take that radio to the tower, and she doubts her ability in doing that. That's a Lara we've never seen before. Before, Lara was this strong, powerful woman that would just do it the drop of a hat, whereas this girl has never had to do this before. She's never been thrust into a situation so powerless. So you go through the natural emotions of doubting yourself and doubting your ability. You have to go through that to become the person that we want her to be at the end. So the motion capture procedure which we go through is pretty complex in the sense that we do everything at once in order to get the most out of the situation. We bring the actors and actresses together, we mocap their body, their movement, facial animations, as well as capturing all the VO there and then to make sure that, like, when she pulls Roth into the base camp, by the time she finished that, she was actually out of breath. So you're able to capture something which you wouldn't normally be able to do by having an animation on the screen and having an actress in a booth trying to reenact it. So we try and go to great lengths to make sure that you really feel the situation.
So what sort of casting process did you go through, and was there any overlap with the film that has also been announced?
No, we haven't at this stage have any overlap whatsoever with the movie. Our focus is the game from a studio standpoint. GK Films, as we know, have signed the license and they're in the process of going through all the gates that they have to go through to. I think they're a ways away from signing any actors just yet. For us, it's very important to find the right VO, the right character, the right actress to be able to portray Lara Croft. She is iconic. She's somebody who's going to be around for quite a while. But we have a very strong character arc. We start with a girl who's, you know, determined, gritty, but young and naive. And with that comes kind of the treble in her voice of kind of the tremble, the fear. But as we grow and Lara grows throughout the game, she becomes stronger. So we need to find somebody who could change their whole kind of emotion and feeling halfway through, 2/3 of the way through, and then at the end, she becomes somebody who she's going to continue that voice for a very long time.
Can you tell us your feelings about the Square Enix Eidos merger and how what that has allowed you to do differently?
The merger has been phenomenal. I think we've had support from every studio that we have in our portfolio. The executive team have been great. It's been a great experience to be able to bring people from all different territories into one space and sort of share ideas and share directions. But as a studio, we had already made the decision to go down this path before Square Enix had purchased Eidos, and obviously Crystal Dynamics is part of that. But since the purchase, they have been hugely supportive of our direction and let us continue with our vision. But it's been great. I have personally travelled to nearly every country. We have an office and met with thousands of people and presented the game to quite a lot of different teams in our portfolio, and every single one of them have been hugely supportive, and we've shared a lot of ideas back and forth.
Square Enix Japan helped with the reveal trailer, is that right? This trailer?
Yes, obviously by the time this goes out, the trailer will be out, so I'll be very happy to be a weight off my shoulder. Yes, I've been working very closely with the studio, Visual Works. I kind of worked with them from day one. I've directed the trailer and had the concept from day one, and Izui-san and Nikomori-san in Tokyo have been absolutely phenomenal. They have worked really, really hard. They've been a real inspiration. I'm very proud to have had the opportunity to work with them. I'm also very proud to think that I've worked with two guys who've had such an influence on Final Fantasy over the years. So yeah, we're looking forward to people's reactions. I think it's a very different type of trailer that Visual Works have ever worked on. From day one, they were excited, and they realized that we were certainly pushing into new space when it comes to the emotion of a character, and a new level of detail, certainly from anything that we've ever done at Eidos.
Samuel Croft asks, what influenced the decision to make this game more open rather than the more linear approach of the previous titles?
So we made the decision very early on that if Lara Croft's an adventurer and explorer, she should have the freedom to be able to move around spaces without restriction. Obviously we were big advocates in the past of Lara's binary movement, but we felt that those experiences had become very linear. They had kind of limited the player's feeling of freedom. We went into these massive vistas and these beautiful spaces, both deep underground in tombs and above on the overland, and you felt restricted. You felt like you could, only run around certain parts. So for us, it was a big decision to say, although we're not an open world game, we're not going to have the freedom to be able to just move everywhere, because we want to keep that story. But in the same sense, we're not a linear game now. We've moved away from that binary movement. We've given the player the opportunity to explore, and we've done that through our non-linear hubs. So we have spaces throughout the game that you'll be able to come in time and time again, re-explore, and you'll see in our new sort of movement abilities throughout the game is that we have action-centric, we have course correction, air steer. You've got a real sense of, I can go and have some fun in this space, but ultimately I've still got to be told a story, so I'll still have to go places, but I won't feel like I'm just being led from point A to B at any time.
Tom Bowcroft asks, will Lara have her iconic dual pistols by the end of the game?
That's a question I get asked a lot, a hell of a lot. I will say I'm not going to comment on any particular sort of experience or item, but I will say that the heritage of Tomb Raider we hold very dearly, and hopefully we'll portray situations and elements that people will sit back and go, that's Tomb Raider, that's Lara Croft. But I'm not telling you whether we get guns or anything like that right now.
So Guns and Grapple asks, was the ship which Lara was on inspired or intentionally linked to Shackleton's boat Endurance, which was destroyed in 1912?
Again, we take inspiration from many different places. We love the story of Ernest Shackleton. He was a character in his own right. He was the ultimate adventurer who was willing to take risks. And for us, it was definitely an inspiration. We love that story. So yes, the ship is actually named, in a sense, after the Endurance. And the character of Roth has some of the traits that you may find in Ernest Shackleton. That's one of the great things about building a character up from nothing. You can look around and see what you like. So yes, we love that story. Although we love the original story, not the Kenneth Branagh movie adaptation. We like the proper hardcore Shackleton story.
Finally, Evan Croft asks, how does it feel rebooting such a big IP? Is there a lot of pressure to keep things the same?
There's a lot of pressure, but there's also a great sense of freedom. As I said, we've worked on the last 4, including Guardian of Light, the last 4 Lara Croft and Tomb Raider games. So we understand what it takes to make a Tomb Raider game, and we understand the perils of taking an iconic brand like this and bringing it into new spaces. There's also a freedom to be able to have a blank canvas to create a new experience and a new direction, but never forgetting who we're working with. And to that point, probably 70% of the studio have worked on the last 4 Tomb Raider games, so everybody understands where we are, understands what we're working on. So hopefully fans will play this game and really feel like they understand we've kept certain things that make Tomb Raider unique, but through keeping the pillars and putting it through an element of survival, introducing a new vision. It's a Lara for today. She's going to be a Lara that's culturally relevant and somebody who will last a very long time.
Cool, so hopefully that answers a few of your questions. We've got a lot more to tell you about Tomb Raider in the coming months, so keep checking the Square Enix blog, we'll have plenty to show you. And if you haven't seen that trailer yet, make sure you go check it out now, it is not to be missed.